Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Hey, sis, hey. This is Tanya from Hey Sis Arise podcast. Welcome back to my podcast. I'm glad that you are tuning in today. Today's title of this episode is Your People, My People. Yes, sis, your folks and my folks. Or if I can say yo folks and my folks. Today we are talking about generations. And sis, when I say generations, I am speaking of generational, transgenerational, and intergenerational, i.e., your people, my people. Yo folks, my folks. Sis, let's start with generational. Generational is how we show up. Our behaviors, customs, traditions, patterns, these depicted from one generation. For example, that would look like mom, dad, and children. That's one generation, sis. A different example could be mom and children, or dad and children, or grandmother and children, or grandparents and children. In today's communities and societies, there's all kinds of family dynamics in a household or under one roof. But that is what generational is, or generation, one family. What we learned from our parents sometimes shows up or surface as we become parents. Those are considered our norms. Again, a generation, whatever caregiver a given family has, and the children. And we learn as children, I've talked about in past episodes, attachment styles, and how we relate to our parents, how we are conditioned in our nurture versus nature, or nature versus nature environments. That's a generation. That's a generation, sis. Going on to transgenerational, I believe is the most impactful and the one that requires lifelong attention and work. Sis, transgenerational is a contagion of behaviors, events, experiences, traumas, beliefs that travel across multiple generations, many times subconsciously or unknowingly. This is why I believe transgenerational, sis, is a framework that needs a whole lifespan of attention and intentional work. I love talking about being intentional in our day-to-day coming and going, and how we show up and how we're doing our work, sis. This would kind of be like the subtitle of that, approaching our psyches and doing the intentional work. It's working out the kinks and the wrinkles of transgenerational, I'll just say stuff. Just transgenerational stuff, sis. And that's why I like to say many times, give ourselves grace. Because some of the stuff that we wake up and look in the mirror and say, "Ooh, who are you today, pretty lady?" That some of that stuff have been here before we were even delicately and intricately woven in our mother's wombs, sis. and that's what we now have meaning to, which is transgenerational. It's just been passed through generations, multiple generations. So even there, if we can stop and just give ourselves grace when, we show up and don't understand why we're showing up in certain behaviors, patterns, customs, traditions, ways, hiccups, hangups, all that stuff. Take a deep breath right there, sis. And give yourself grace because you're here on this podcast, you're listening, you're tuning in each time I bring new content. So that gives me the indication that you are doing the work. I will proceed. Sis, some traumas and experiences that we face today, possibly, as I stated, took place 2 to 3 generations ago. And some of the things that I'm speaking of are abuse, addiction, abandonment, racism, people pleasing, unworthiness, low self esteem. I can go on and on and on, sis. On the flip side, tenacity, vigor, strength, intelligence, determination, wisdom, and more. Now, I want to be that individual that balances the psychological scales. I don't want to just pull on the negative as far as abuse and trauma and racism. I want to keep a balance, sis. And, I'm a podcast lover and all this stuff, and we have a billion of amazing podcast hosts. However, I find that many times people weigh more heavily on the traumatic scales, on, the negative scales, and leave the victories unnoticed. Sis, if you know of historical transgenerational traumas, where do you stand today? Personally, if you've heard the stories of, I like to say, grandmama and them, or great grandmama and them, where do you stand today? Are you a vivacious, trailblazing go-getter? Or do you see fire explode out of your toddler or teen and ask yourself, what in the world? Where did that come from? Sis, that can be transgenerational. That trailblazing, vivacious go-getter or that irate toddler or teen. It could be transgenerational. Not necessarily that it always have to be, but it can be. The good, the bad, and the ugly comes from cross-transgenerational generations. Maybe you had a relentless entrepreneurial great-great-great-grandparent that dug their heels in the ground and stood 10 toes down and created an empire despite the multiple rejections and ridicules. Sis, that fervency could have transmitted across your generational lineages to your toddler or teen or even yourself. Just a little self-disclosure, my teenage daughter has some persistence in her that I can relate to. And then some persistencies that leaves my mind blown. She is a Leo, and though I don't follow zodiac signs like that, stubbornness, bull is whoa. Sometimes my mind is just blown. Lastly, sis, intergenerational. Intergenerational is either that sweet spot or not. Intergenerational is the influences between parents and grandparents and then children. On the other hand, sis, another way of looking at intergenerational is the handed down customs, patterns, and behaviors from parents to their children. Sis, this shows up like an adult daughter feeling like she has to literally close or shut down her kitchen every night by washing and drying all the dishes, sweeping and washing the floor in the kitchen, wiping down and disinfecting all surfaces, and either pushing all the dining room table chairs in, or placing them on top of the table. Okay, sis, I might be doing a little bit more self-disclosure. And why? Why does mom or that adult feels like she has to do that every night? Well, because sis, that's what mother did every night. That was a learned pattern or learned behavior that she picked up and just can't stop. She saw her mother do it. I mean, I'm sure the kitchen is, immaculate when all of that is done, very methodical, but it's learned. It's learned. And it's learned in that space of, like I said, sis, the intergenerational space. That's where it's learned. To take a little deeper dive, sis, the way we cope with the ups and downs of life is most likely pretty close to how our parents faced life's highs and lows. If they withdrew and isolated themselves in high stress times, we will have a tendency to do the same. If our parents, during whatever stressful, high anxiety events would become more short circuited and easily agitated with their children just being a kid, and the parent would flip their lids for small mistakes like spilled juice on the floor or being too loud, we will sometimes, in most cases, display those same behaviors toward our children. That's unless, sis, we are present and aware and have done the work. Sis, intergenerational overall affects our personality styles, our communication styles, how we love or the lack thereof, how we give ourselves away in love relationships or not, and lastly, our attachment levels, how securely and freely we can attach in any given relationship, which can be guarded with distrust or fully open to a strong bond and connection with others. For me personally, sis, my caregivers, i.e., parents, were very private, and what took place in our home stayed in our home, and it better have stayed in our home. Even if it wasn't something, small or totally irrelevant. Like, I don't even know if I ever shared the color of my walls in my home, my childhood home growing up, because it was just so instilled in me that was private. Anything within the walls of our home was private. And that's just how I saw my caregivers, my parents, roll. So I followed suit, sis. um, this type of intergenerational, transgenerational, and generational influences and behaviors, sis, shows up, and I'm learning more and more, even in myself personally and close friends and relatives. We just do things the way we saw things done, sis. However, a great hindrance I see quite often as a mental health liaison that stems from any of these generational patterns is enmeshment, which results in dysfunction in the family system. Cis enmeshment is when families are all conglomerated together, and it is very difficult to see where one family member or unit starts or begins and the other or next family member or unit ends. There are no definitive lines or boundaries. Many of my favorite forefathers and foremothers of family therapy systems believed and deemed this dynamic as unhealthy and quote unquote stuck. There you have it, sis. Generational, transgenerational, and intergenerational. Reflect on what you believe may align with you and your daily approach. How do you cope with life's highs and lows? Where is your anger threshold? Are you mild mannered or spicy reactive? Do you feel comfortable and safe to love freely, sis? Or, sis, are your answers to these questions are all originate from these generational patterns? Whatever came to mind when you thought of the answers as I was asking the questions, that stems from your family generational patterns, behaviors, and influences. I highlight that truth because we are all on this journey to rise and to do our own work and arise to that God given being that we are purposed for. I've shared in the past that I started 2 years ago building my own family tree or genogram. And I have learned so much about my family's historical experiences and past, as well as myself. I have been able to better understand my mother's parenting approaches and why she showed up the way she showed up. So, sis, delve deep and explore your familial generations. Take the time to sit and ponder how you show up, how you see yourself, and as you do, think about your caregivers, parents, grandparents, extended families. Sis, if you have children, bring to mind your framework towards them. This sheds light on our personal outlooks, worldviews, and behaviors, from being superstitious to being guarded and private. Or like myself, I know, and I've been told countless times that I am an old-souled individual. I now see that in my own daughter, and it sometimes frightens me. And sis, I just want to also remind you of one of my favorite terms that I've shared in the past as well, neuroplasticity. Because maybe you are listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, Tanya, you don't even want to know how I show up sometimes and how I flip my lid sometimes with my kids or my husband or at work. You know, I want to take you back to neuroplasticity, which is how we can reshape and remold our brains. So, if you are thinking and already pondering how you show up, you can change that, sis. You can reframe that. You can rewire that in those ways. Because remember, this is Hey Sis, Arise podcast. So we will arise every day as better versions of ourselves when we do the work. So don't stop there. Give yourself grace again. I'm still doing the work. I'm still evolving into the best version of myself. My mother was my mother. um, Sweet and all the stuff, but shot from the hip. She would shoot from the hip, and you just have to take it down with a lump of sugar, if you know what I'm saying. Um, you know, but that's why this podcast is here. That's why I'm here. That's why I present the content and information that I do so that we all can become that best version of ourselves as we arise every day. So I just wanted to put that plug in there as well, sis. You know, it just ran across my mind that maybe some of us are like, well, wait, I am not, Claire Huxtable, I am far from, I forgot, June Beaver or June Cleaver, the Leave It to Beaver, or any of those daytime television shows when I was growing up. Yes, now I'm aging myself, but they were the wholesome, clean television shows where dinner was always on the table at 5 p.m. and the house was immaculate. Um, hey, we're still doing the work. So give yourself grace in that, and visit your generational, transgenerational, and intergenerational historical past, so that you are able to um, shed light on where you are and where you want to go and how you want to be, and what example are we showing for the generations that are coming after us. So thank you, sis, for being open, for tuning in today, um, for thinking, for even turning on that thinking compartment of your brain to reminisce about your grandmother, your grandfather, or great grandmother, great grandfather. My great grandmother name was Big Mama, and um, very strong, independent woman. So thank you for being open to that. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast, this episode 4. I'm grateful for all of your listening. The past 3 that I've done so far, um, I've gotten a lot of great feedback from that, so I thank you. And I do ask that you continue to come and listen, share. I'm trying to spread myself, out there a little bit more. I do have a couple of YouTube shorts. I am on IG and on Facebook. I'm on Spotify and Riverside. So, sis, thank you. Thank you so much. And as I always do, I would like to end this episode with loving affirmations to all of you out there, my sisters. So, without further ado, hey, sis, walk out your purpose. Hey, sis, smile brightly. Hey, sis, love freely. Hey, sis, be still. Hey, sis, be mindful. Hey, sis, be awake. Hey, sis, be aware. Hey, sis, self-reflect. Hey, sis, enjoy nature. Hey, sis, breathe deeply. Hey, sis, I see you. Hey, sis, walk in empathy. Hey, sis, arise. Hey, sis, until next time, bye for now.